Alright, so in this YouTube video, I'm going to start showing you guys how I went about making my own mechanical numpad. So basically just the numpad portion of a keyboard. I completely designed my own because I wanted to have better like macro control and just better support when I reprogram the keys for macros. So there are basically three steps to doing this, and that's making the case, making the PCB, and making the firmware. So I'm just going to split that up into three videos, and for this one I'm going to start with the case. So the first thing I did was I found this site called Keyboard Layout Editor. So go ahead and give that a Google search, and you find this site. So this is a pretty cool site. Basically, it gives you a little template to start out with, which is conveniently very close to the thing that I want to make, which is a numpad. But basically, you can go add keys, and then you can change like where the key is, stuff like that. Oops. So let's say we want to put the key like here, then you can do that. I don't want that key, so I'm going to delete it. And this site, it does have a lot of customization. Like you can actually write the legends in. Like if I click this, I can change this to like just, M lock for whatever reason if you wanted to do that. You can pick like where you want the legend to be. If you want to put like edge printed legends, that's this front legend option. You can change legend size, color, key color, all that stuff. And then for like these non-standard keys, you see the height is different. This one, the width is different. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then you can come into keyboard properties and you can change the case background color. So if you want it to be like a darker gray, you could do that. If you just want to do that for some reason. You can set like what switches you want and all that. But we don't really need most of this stuff for what we're doing. We're just using this site to generate some data that we can throw into another site that will generate our case for us. So if you're not comfortable with the raw data, you can manually add all your keys, and the only thing that matters is just that a key that is the right size is where you want it. But for me, I've been using the site a lot, so I just hop over to the raw data, and I know how to manipulate all this stuff. So like all this extra text I know I don't want, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I also know that for my case, I want there to be an offset from the top. Oops. So I'm going to do that. So this basically just makes the case a little taller, lines it up with the height of a normal case, which has, a 1U key at the top and then a 0.25U gap right here. So this is pretty much all I need off of this site is just this. And then we gotta go find this other site. Let me try to pull up the name real quick because I don't quite remember what it is. Okay. It is builder.swillkb.com. Oh, that's not an S. And apparently I just didn't type the end of builder. Okay, so yeah. Here we just grab all this and we paste it in here. And then here just some random other settings that you might want to change. So this determines like what style hole you want for your switches. So if you cared about having ALPS support, maybe you would do this MX plus ALPS option, which allows the hole to support an MX switch and an ALPS switch. The default is this MX switch hole that has the holes for you to be able to pop the top off of the switch while the switch is still in the case. I don't really mess around with like changing springs or lubing my switches, so I just use this first one because it's cheaper. It's smaller, so it's gonna take less time to cut, which means it's cheaper. Pretty self-explanatory. And then same kind of idea with this. Basically, this Cherry Plus Co-Star option for your stabilizer is the most expensive, but offers the most support. I think Co-Star stabilizers are just the easiest to work with. They're also super cheap. So that's what I set it to. And then for this case type, you set it to sandwich. And then all you really want out of all these remaining options is some holes for you to support the plate with. So I have 6 that go around the edge. They're close enough together that I'm pretty confident that it's not going to flex or anything. And I'll show you what this 6 actually is on the next screen. But yeah, then for the hole size, I set it to 3.5 millimeter because I'm using 3 millimeter diameter bolts, so you just want a little bit of wiggle room there. And then for this edge width, this is basically how much room you want to leave around the edge of the plate for these holes. So I set this to 10 millimeters. You could go smaller. You could probably go like 7 or 6 pretty comfortably. But, 10's just a nice, easy number, and there's not really any reason to make it smaller than this. Edge pad, it's kind of the same thing. You just pad the edges. So basically this is saying, like, on all 4 edges, I want there to be an extra 10 millimeters. And then within those 10 millimeters, I want there to be a 3.5 millimeter hole centered there. 3.5 millimeter diameter, that is. And then you can add plate corners just so it's not like a square, but I leave this off. It's kind of just a personal choice. So then you click Draw My CAD. And it's going to give you all these layers. Now, what I did is I just used standoffs to hold the switch layer, which is this one, off of the bottom layer, which is this one. So that means all of these intermediate layers aren't actually needed. So we're just going to grab the DXF file for the switch and for the bottom. And now that we have those, we can go to a site to get them laser cut. And I have had really good experience with Send Cut Send. So I'm going to show off how their site works. Basically do login, and then I'm not actually going to log in, but you would log in here, or if you didn't have an account, you'd make one. But luckily, you can also go through their whole like quote process without actually logging in. So I'm just going to go grab those 2 files that we just downloaded from the other site. I think we can just upload both of these on the same screen. Alright, so it defaults to inches. That's not what we want. So you just got to change that to millimeters real quick. And then for the switch layer, it really matters what material you pick. The thickness has to be 1.5 millimeters. And the only the only material they have that's exactly 1.5 millimeters is this stainless steel option. And then this is just your quantity. So I think it makes sense to buy like 2 or 5 because later on, when we make the PCB, you have to order that in a minimum quantity of 5 anyway. So let's just say that we're gonna make 5. And yeah, so here is where you actually have to log in. But basically, this would just add it to your cart for the price that it says that it would cost, and then you buy it. It's pretty simple. Normally what I do for the bottom piece is pick the same material, but just thicker. So we picked 1.5 millimeter for the plate. I usually pick 3.2 millimeters for the bottom, and then same thing, you get discounts if you order them in bulk. There's also a overall discount at the end if you use code SENDCUTSAVE10. So if it's your first time ordering from them, keep that in mind. You can get 10% off. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Their stuff I think is very fairly priced. And really the only thing is you have to make sure that you order enough stuff that they don't charge you overhead, because they do have like a minimum cost for every material you choose. So like if we just ordered one of these at $9.28, you would get charged an extra like $20 just for the minimum cut size. So that's why it really does make sense to just order 5 of these right off the bat. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I will catch you guys in part 2.